Let's see the almighty power on this Sportster as we approach stop traffic. First gear pinned, baby. Oh my God, it's not fast at all. Introduce any bit of lean on this bike and it's like, whoa, 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 what are we doing, champ? What are we doing, champ? Wow. Incredible speed and performance, and the front end totally didn't feel like it was about to tank slap. Oh my goodness. Oh my Lord. Can you guys believe it? It's another frickin' Sportster on the channel, guys. Oh my God. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Yammy Noob. Today's a special one, isn't it? We're doing our first ride and review of our new giveaway. Yes, you heard that right, our giveaway. Sportster 1200, baby. This is the Roadster. Lots to say about this thing. It's got a couple differences over the traditional Sportsters. There's like a billion different Sportsters. We're going to talk about this one today. But the first thing I wanted to tell you, if you are new to the channel and you don't know that we give away these bikes, check out shop.yammynoob.co. Use the code LOVEMEDAD, because we love to make the dad jokes around here for the Sportsters and the Harleys, to get max entries for the month for the sweepstakes and get 10% off your order. That's the best way to get entered to win for right now. If you go to yammynoob.co, you can become a member, rack up your entries, already get that 10% off on the store for all your purchases. It's actually a better way to do it. But if you just want a quick and easy way to enter, that's going to be the way to do it for this motorcycle. Also, big shout out to Eurocycle for selling us this bike. They're our preferred dealership. We buy all of our giveaway bikes from them. So hit the link down below to ride Eurocycle. They deliver straight to your door. It's a great experience, and they don't just have amazing, cool, exotic European motorcycles, although if that is your predilection, they do have many of them. But we actually bought this used Sportster 1200 off of them, which was a really great deal. So let's talk a little bit about this motorcycle before we get it out on the road. Now, many of you have seen that we did a Sportster 883 in 2020. We 1275 swapped it, which was a whole thing. And we decided, you know what? Let's try another Sportster build. Let's do something a little more simple. So we're not going to do a whole engine build on this. We're going to keep it fresh, keep it simple, update it, bring it back to life a little bit, and just do the classic Sportster thing. So this Sportster is a Roadster. That's going to give you the upside down suspension here, the dual disc brakes. Whoa! Dual disc brakes on a Harley. Are you kidding me? Holy crap, I can't even believe that. Obviously got the 1202cc V twin over here, 1200 as the name implies. Making about 67 horsepower and 71 foot-pounds of torque, being fed through a 5-speed gearbox, so no fancy 6-speed slip or clutch. Ain't none of that stuff over here, brother. This is a real brother bike. Obviously belt drive like many Harleys. It is on an extremely roached out rear end over here, so we have new tires for this already in the shop, and it's on these short little shocks too. They kind of slammed this bike down a little bit, which really stinks. So we're going to fix that too, get some real suspension on this thing, jack up the rear a little bit, and actually get this thing to handle the way it should handle. Stock pipes, as far as I can tell, it's actually pretty quiet. But yeah, you know, it's a Sportster 1200. There's a lot to say about it, and I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised that I'm not going to be overwhelmingly negative to this thing. I actually have good things to say about this motorcycle because, spoiler alert, I kind of like it. All right. So, key ignition on the side here, you flip it on, dash comes to life. We'll take a look at the dash really quick. Very simple dash, mileage, gear indicator, tachometer, and speedometer right there. Very simple. As far as I can tell, it doesn't have a gas gauge, which is a bit problematic because this is a tiny little 2-gallon peanut tank. You guys will also notice I am not wearing my normal jacket because I figured I wanted to embark on the whole Harley experience. So, let's swing a leg. Very, very small seat height on this thing. I've got a very pronounced bend in my legs. I'm about 5'11", so this motorcycle is no problem to flat foot. That's why it's very popular with beginner and entry-level riders. Let's flip it on, shall we? Let's get it in neutral. Put our rear brake on. Shatters to life. This is a very characterful engine because it's actually from like 1987. Despite this being a 2018 model, this is the same Evo motor, as far as Spike tells me, from 1987. So this is a very old school engine, and there's a lot to say about this thing. But we'll hear it rev up really quick. It's such an old school sound. All right, let's take off with is this a real bike? I don't think it is. I don't know what a real bike is. Oh, right, we got to do slow speed maneuvers really quick. So, before we embark on our maiden voyage, let's talk the slow speed stuff with the Sportster. Now, one of the funny things about this bike is because it's on the super slammed out rear suspension, it is teeth-chatteringly weird at the back end. As you go over a small speed bump, it feels like the suspension genuinely bottoms out, which really sucks. So parking lot maneuvers will hurt your teeth fillings a little bit, but overall the slow speed experience on this bike is very neutral. You know what's funny is I actually prefer cruiser motorcycles with forward controls. I don't really love cruiser bikes with mid-mounted controls. I feel like they're just a little bit awkward because you're in this kind of like weird little like clamshell position, which is very peculiar. I like a more upright stance, high bars, feet forward controls. If I'm gonna ride a cruiser, that's what I want to do with it. But slow speeds here, not a problem with the Sporty. You can get real nice and slow with it. Go left, go right, anything you need to do. Just basically like every other. God, Jesus, the rear suspension. Feels like I'm back in my prison days, if you know what I mean. Just kidding, that was a weird joke. Anyways, this motorcycle obviously has very limited suspension travel. It's not really designed to have a lot of suspension travel in the first place, and then the person who used to own this put some sort of slammed rear shock on the back, so that's obviously not very helpful. But boy, it's pretty exciting going down the road because it's barely moving and traveling at the rear, and the front seems to have way more travel, and so it gives this very like backyard barnyard feel to it. It kind of moves and shakes in a lot of different directions, which, you know, I'm at the point now where I've ridden so many, you know, CBR 500s and new motorcycles and stuff. I kind of want my motorcycle to feel like it's going to kill me a little bit. Let's see the almighty power on this Sportster as we approach stop traffic. First gear pinned, baby. Oh my God, it's not fast at all. So curb weight on this machine is about 571 pounds. So despite it having a pretty healthy 70-something foot-pounds of torque and 67 horsepower, it doesn't move very quickly. It has a nice feeling of torque down low. I'll put it up into third gear here. We're chilling at about 3,000 RPM. You wick the throttle, it feels like a nice burly engine. You're not moving that fast, but the feeling it evokes is very, very nice. And that's the kind of general thing about the Sportster, especially this 1200 over the 883, is you get a nice big bike feel without a whole lot of big bike power. Very similar to the Enfield 650 in a lot of ways, although I do think our Interceptor 650 could take this motorcycle. What do you guys think? Should we drag race the Enfield versus the Sportster 1200 and prove what is a real bike after all? I think we should. But yeah, this is obviously not a motorcycle designed for long distance touring. Many diehard Harley aficionados will be very quick to tell you that the 2-gallon tank, the 2.2 gallon tank, lack of wind protection, small engine, does not lend this thing to a touring capability. But honestly, I think those guys are full of crap, if I'm being completely honest. I think that, you know, a motorcycle like this, you know, our motorcycling ancestors took these things, you know, around the country and up and down the coast and stuff. I mean, you look at the guys from the Easy Rider days, they had literally choppers that were rigid mounted and were just absolutely god-awful to ride, and they would ride them for thousands of miles. So I really think that if you really need that much comfort, I don't know, you're kind of a baby. I would ride this thing, you know, 300 or 400 miles, no problem. It would suck. It wouldn't be the most amazing experience, but I would do it. It would be completely fine. But, you know, it's really funny. Again, I'm to the point now where I really value unique and novel motorcycling experiences, and the Sportster here, it really gives you that. I mean, this is a 2018 model year motorcycle that, through Harley's own ineptitude, has ended up being a bit of like a modern classic bike. This is one of the most old school feeling bikes you can get, kinda new, you know, from a private seller. They don't make them anymore, as far as I understand. They're actually phasing out the old Evo Sportster line. But I mean, this is a 2018 bike and it feels like a 1985, which for some people is a good thing. They don't want to have a brand new, polished, perfect little motorcycle. They want something that has that old school, authentic feel. And Man, this thing has it in spades. I'm actually really pleasantly surprised by the throttle response. It's very linear, very progressive. This motorcycle is not carbureted, it's fuel injected, which is nice. So that means a whole lot less maintenance and headache and worry for those of you looking to get into something like this. And that's just gonna make the fueling a little bit cleaner and simpler and better. Boy, those front brakes leave a lot to be desired, though. You pull on the lever, and you're not stopping. You pull on the lever more, you're still not stopping. You start actioning the rear brake, you start stopping a little bit more, and then somehow you've made your braking marker. That is horrifying. There's no braking feel whatsoever, but that's okay. It doesn't go that fast to allow for braking. You know, you don't need super extreme braking performance on a Sportster, because this thing can probably barely brake 100 miles per hour. And also, doing above 100, 110 miles per hour on this bike sounds horrifying. No thank you, I'm good. It reminds me of when we had our 1275 Sportster, and it was like the most ridiculous feeling being on a bike that made like 110 horsepower on this frame and with worse suspension. Now, speaking of suspension, this is the bumpy road test that I always take this bike on, and I just want you guys to hear my voice here. We're behind this truck, and luckily we've slowed down a little bit, which is actually going to help me out quite a bit, because if you listen to this is really bad. And that's just down to the rear shocks. Once we get an actual set of shocks with real travel in the rear, that's going to clean up a bunch, and this motorcycle will actually be very functional to ride over bumps and stuff like that. But it's funny because the bobber kind of look and feel is to have that slammed rear end, but it's a very non-functional change on the motorcycle to make it so slammed at the rear. All right, do we dare do the speed bump check on this thing? Oh god, I literally felt the rear bottom out. I stood up, but that's literally that crunching sound. Like your old Huffy mountain bike, just the forks just bottoming out. I'm pretty sure both front and rear just bottomed out doing that. Yeah, ouch. Okay, so barely enough suspension travel to hit the speed bumps at Mach Jesus. You will not be doing that on this motorcycle. That's pretty brutal. I am not going to take them sitting down, because I'm literally feeling the suspension crumple underneath me, just a little speed bump. And for an experienced motorcyclist, this adds a lot of pizzazz and drama to the ride. It's kind of interesting and fun. You're kind of like, whoa, this bike handles so poorly. Let me see what it'll do. Because you get to the point where you've ridden so many, well-handling bikes and bikes that actually do very good. You kind of want something that does really bad, so it brings you back to reality in a way. Because if you only ride really, really nice put-together motorcycles, it just kind of warps your perception. You got to remember what the crappy ones are like. I mean, that's very, very important. I'm pretty sure my rear tire is spinning every time I'm leaving a stoplight. I'm hearing a crazy screeching sound from the rear, and I'm pretty sure it's because the rear tire is so bald that it has literally zero grip as I just pull away from a stop, which is objectively hilarious. Let's get around this guy here. Yeah, Sportster, baby. But yeah, I find the ergonomics to be not so agreeable. I know that people prefer mid-mounted controls on these, but I just don't see the reason why. I feel like a bike like this, taller bars and foot forwards are definitely the way to go, just because, like, why are you going to pretend like this thing is actually going to carve any corners? It's not. This is a bike that is really better suited to bopping around town and cruising and stuff. It's not a long distance bike for most people, so I don't know why you would want mid-mounted controls. Just feels a little stupid to me. But yeah, carving through these twisties here, we're behind an Infinity something the hell big mom car thing, and I wish I could open it up a little bit more, because I feel like there's plenty more pace underneath this bike to do something. And again, that feeling of torque off the drive, off an apex on a turn, is really nice on this thing. Like, you just kind of roll onto it a little bit, and it's really predictable for the power, which is really nice, and honestly, really lends this thing to being a good beginner bike. I know that people will kind of scoff at the idea of a 1200cc motorcycle being a good beginner bike, but honestly, I do think this is a totally fine beginner bike option. It's really not that fast, and yes, you could say that my sense of speed has been warped by owning things like my race bike and the Turbo Busa and my Husqvarna, but this thing isn't scary to ride at all. It's actually very docile, low in the revs. It doesn't have a ton in the way of top-end power. I think this is completely manageable for a beginner rider. I don't think they really needed to make the 883. I think that's like a super duper duper easygoing little cruiser. But if you're getting an 883, just get a Rebel 500. It's so much cheaper and better. And then if you want to stay in the cruiser line, get a 1200 like this and then have fun building it out and modding it out, because that's the really cool thing about these bikes is the amount of parts availability is bonkers. If you want a motorcycle you can really modify and get into and do stuff to at an affordable price and relatively easily, there's basically no substitute for a Sportster 1200. This is a fantastic option for someone who wants to get started modifying and having fun with their bike, wrenching in the garage, while still having a motorcycle that will run and ride and feels like an old school bike. That's the big difference. Because yeah, if you buy like a 1970s Honda, yes, it will feel pretty similar to this in that old school charm kind of way, but you know, this is a newer bike, and with fuel injection and stuff, you know, it really does the trick. I just can't get over the fact that this rear suspension is so compromised, but you know, we're making it work, folks. We are making it work here with the Sporty. One of the peculiar features about the Sportsters are the turn indicators. You'll notice the turn indicators are here and here. Really dumb. Every other motorcycle just has them right here for both of them, but Harley's got to be different. They've been doing it different for a while. What's funny though is on the Pan Am, on the new bikes, they've got it standard like everybody else. So it's like they are trying to be, you know, modern and stuff, but you know, this is just one of their older bikes in their lineup, but they want the new bikes to feel like more European and Japanese. Boy, it's been really tough today. I've been behind cars this whole ride. It's almost like they don't want me to unleash the fury of the Sportster. One of the funniest things about this bike is this 5-speed gearbox is the clunkiest thing you'll ever feel. Shifting between every single gear feels like, it's so hard to explain. It's like I'm actuating a toaster or something. It's so comically bad. Introduce any bit of lean on this bike and it's like, whoa, 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 what are we doing, champ? What are we doing, champ? That's really funny. Yeah, it's got the big bike feel, but it really barely performs. So if you want the big bike feel and you're a beginner, this is definitely the way to go. Stuff like this and the infields, yeah, that's you know, you definitely can get that big bike feel out of it. But let's keep trying to hustle it through some corners at a filthy casual pace, shall we? Man, I've barely ever ridden a bike that feels so not confidence inspiring on the side of the tire. And like, don't get me wrong, it's doing everything it needs to do, but it's just like I'm riding at like maybe 3/10 as what I would normally do, just because I'm so concerned of what this bike is actually going to do when you really push it. All right, here we go, baby. Although that's a red line. Wow! Incredible speed and performance, and the front end totally didn't feel like it was about to tank slap. Oh my god, that's sketchy. Yeah, if you hit bumps going at actual speeds of like 70 or 80, that is genuinely a little scary. Even back there, I just hit like a little washboard section. The whole bike just feels like it's about to come undone. We absolutely need to figure out the suspension on this thing. It's so bad. And I know it's the suspension. I know obviously the frame is compromised and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. All right, more Twisties impressions on the Sporty. Just gonna tighten up here. We're in second gear. Oh, I know there's a bit of a suspension issue here. Tar snakes. I mean, it makes for an exciting ride. All right, folks, we're gonna pull off here, wrap up our final thoughts on the Sportster, use our strange indicators here. All right, folks, that's our ride on the Harley Davidson 1200 Sportster Roadster. Final thoughts. So, it's a really interesting riding experience. It's really unique. It's not really like any other riding experience you're going to have with a modern-ish motorcycle. It's decidedly old school. It has a lot of attitude and flavor about it. It's outrageously compromised. It's atrocious to ride. Like, objectively speaking, it's atrocious to ride. But That's part of the flavor and charm of it. And if you get outside of the realm of like, okay, this thing needs to like handle really well or be a really good motorcycle, I think it works fine for what it is. If you're not going to go carve up twisties and actually ride a motorcycle in like a true meaningful way, if you are looking for a more stylistic piece to add to your stable and you want something that just has a lot of character and pizzazz but not a lot of the way in the performance and stuff, I think the Harley's a great option. That's kind of what these bikes excel at. There are a lot of pizzazz and flavor and style and not a lot in the way of substance. It's kind of the American marketing ethos, right? Like you make something that has a lot of flash and panache, but then doesn't have a lot of substance. That's basically what Americans are best at. I say that as an American, guys. Don't get your panties in a wad. It's an interesting motorcycle. I think there's a lot to dissect here in terms of the modifications and differences and changes we're going to make to this thing. But overall, I do like riding it, though. Despite all of that, what I said, despite it being a terrible motorcycle to ride, despite it being compromised, it's a genuinely interesting and unique ride. There's really nothing quite like a Harley in this configuration. Now, for the big touring Harleys and the M8s and stuff, I literally couldn't care less. Those bikes suck. But the Sportster is special. The Sportster is really interesting, and I think bikes like this are definitely worthy to be preserved. I would love to ride the new Nightster 975. I bet that's more of like a Triumph Bonneville treatment on this OG Sportster. But yeah, guys, that's the first ride on the Harley-Davidson 1200 Sportster Roadster. If you guys like the video, be sure to subscribe for more Roadster content. We're going to be making a lot of stuff with this motorcycle. And remember to use the code LOVEMEDAD over at shop.yamanoob.co to get entered for a chance to win this thing. You get 10% off your order and max entries for the month to win it. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.
Well, look at you. You've made it to the end of another Yami Noob video. You should consider yourself pretty lucky because I have curated this one right over here for you to continue watching. It's probably just as good as the one you just saw. Unless you hated the one you just saw. I don't know, maybe leave me a comment down below about how much you hated it as well too. Or just keep watching this one. Make sure you keep watching Yami Noob. Don't forget to keep watching Yami Noob. That's the most important thing. Keep watching Yami Noob.